If I had to start memorizing the Quran all over again, these 3 apps would be the first things I'd set up. But it's not just the apps, it's how I use them that makes memorization faster, easier, and way less frustrating. Let me show you the apps I use and the strategies that make them work even better for Quran memorization. One of the hardest parts of memorizing Quran on your own is not always realizing when you're making mistakes. You think you've got it right until you check the Mus'haf or recite to someone and you realize you've missed a word, swapped an ayah, or even skipped an entire line. And sometimes you don't even notice the mistake until it becomes grounded in your mind. In the past, my way of fixing this took a long time. I'd record myself, play it back, and then compare it. Or I'd ask someone to listen and correct me. This worked better, but it still slowed me down. Then I found a way to cut all of that out. Instead of recording myself or constantly checking, I started using this app called Tarteel. It listens as I recite and instantly highlights my mistakes, right there on the spot. Now, instead of waiting until the end of the page to find out where I went wrong, I can catch my mistakes as I go. I especially love using this right before I recite to a teacher or a friend to make sure I didn't miss anything. But just because I could catch my mistakes didn't mean I knew how to fix them. This next app and strategy makes fixing them almost effortless. I've had this app on my phone for years. I mostly use it to read from and sometimes listen. I never really thought of it as a memorization tool until one day I needed to fix my mistakes fast. I was about to recite to someone and I knew I had too many mistakes. I didn't have time to sit down and go through my usual way of fixing them. I needed something quick. So I thought, what if I just listen? Just listening on its own didn't really work. Then I tried something different. As I listened, I looked away from the Mus'haf and recited along with the reciter. The first time, I completely stumbled through the ayahs. The next time, a little smoother. The third time, it suddenly felt easy. Then I tried reciting by myself. No mistakes. In just a few minutes, I had corrected all of my mistakes. And the best part, it didn't feel frustrating or slow, it just worked. Honestly, any app with Quran audio can help with this, but I like this one because the audio is high quality, it's also gapless so there aren't long pauses between the ayahs, and it has a large bank of reciters to choose from. Now, I could recognize my mistakes and fix them quickly, but this last app actually helped me avoid making mistakes in the first place. Now, mistakes don't always happen because you forgot the words. Sometimes it's because the ayahs don't feel connected in your mind. That's what kept happening to me with certain ayahs, until I started using this next app. Quranic Arabic is relatively new for me, but it's been a super helpful addition for my memorization sessions. It kind of works like Duolingo, but for Quranic vocabulary. As I've kept using it, I've gotten better and better. Now, when I'm reading or reciting, I can catch myself automatically translating. This word means this, that word means that. Before, I knew some words in isolation, but I never actually applied that to sitting down and going through the ayahs and translating them word by word. For example, the other day I was revising Surah Al-Mursalat, and the last half of this page has always been really hard for me, especially these 5 ayahs. I would always start with these 2, and then I would forget which ones came next and in which order. Was it this one or this one? I could never remember. But when I looked over the page before reciting, I actually noticed something. If I just thought about the meaning, then it became obvious. This ayah had to come next because this ayah up here was talking about the pious, so it couldn't be that other ayah. And subhanAllah, I was struggling with this surah for years. I think since I learned it, I was struggling with it. And just when I was looking over it that day and I actually tried to piece together the meaning for myself, everything clicked. This app could have just been a tool for learning vocabulary, but it did something more for me. It trained me to think about the meaning of the Quran as I read, like translating as I go, and it made my memorization much more smoother, more intuitive, and a lot easier to retain. That being said, I was already memorizing the Quran before I found these apps, and to be completely honest, I still could without them. but they make the process so much easier. They help remove some of the friction that makes the process frustrating. And once I started using them, my sessions became faster, smoother, and way more effective. But tools alone aren't enough. If you want a full step-by-step method to memorize the Quran effectively, you can watch this video next.